Hello, and welcome to Self-Care is Sexy. My name is Chris, and I'll be your host. We are a weekly podcast that's here to generate and share self-care ideas with each other. Last week, I went over the foundations for self-care and gave you a list of 20 new self-care ideas. And I tend to review the basics a lot because it's repetition that's going to someday crack the code and get through to you that self-care is essential. So if you missed that show, you can check that out on iTunes, SoundCloud, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Spreaker, Podbean, and wherever you get your podcasts. I want to give you a preview of what you can expect from today's show. So today, I want to talk about making self-care a priority and how to shift the thoughts from feeling selfish about self-care to feeling empowered and making time for you. But first, a few quick housekeeping notes. First of all, I really hope you're enjoying the show. I love and welcome feedback anytime. I want to offer content that's relevant and that it's something you want to hear about. So always feel free to reach out to me via email. It's Chris, K-R-I-S, at selfcareissexy.com. Also, the way that this show gets rated in iTunes is from the ratings you, the listeners, give it. So please, if you've not already taken that time to rate this show, I'd really appreciate it. In iTunes, you just have to select this show from your podcast library, scroll down to the bottom of the episodes, and tap on the stars, and that will take you to the portion where you could write a review. That would mean so much to me, and it helps others find this show. Recently, we got a review from Chrissy B44. Her review says, "What I love so much about this podcast is the various perspectives and platforms that people can learn new means to take care of themselves. Incredible insight, good moments of humor, tons of deep and informative content, and most importantly, the podcast host exhibits so much passion in the care of herself and to strengthen and or positively influence those who need guidance to love themselves. Total 5 stars, but really 19 stars. Thank you so much, Chrissy B. Thank you for sending that love my way. I hope that you are able to be on the show sometime soon and you can talk about your journey of self-care and all the CrossFit goodness you're into. I just think it's amazing, so thank you. All right, that's it for housekeeping. Let's get to today's content. I want to talk about how we make self-care a priority, and this is especially important right now. And I just want to say real quick that my show topics are picked out way ahead of time, way in advance. And this week's topic is about making self-care the priority. And this might seem insensitive right now with the murder of so many Black people in America by cops and the protests and in this moment of time. And right now, it needs to be all about how we can do something. We need to prioritize helping Black people and the Black Lives Matter movement. And in addition to that, this is a podcast about self-care. And I really believe in my core that taking better care of you first is the priority. You cannot be effective in helping others if you do not attend to you first. Our Black communities are going through extreme trauma right now, period. And the best way to be in service to others right now is to ensure that you're putting yourself first. So that when you do join this fight and you are serving others, supporting others, loving on others, you're doing so from an overflowing, full, and loving heart. We have to do the work right now, and we have to get out there and help others. We have to do more than retweet and post videos, and it's more than just a hashtag. We cannot ignore the injustice in America right now. The murder of Black people in this country, we cannot. We cannot just sit idly by and do nothing. And we can help, we can. But we can help others best by first not becoming a burden to them. We need to be there for the Black community. We have to create space for people of color. We have to be open and strong, and we need to radically listen. And if you've not done your work, your self-care work, you're either going to be too burned out to help or end up needing help yourself. either physically or mentally, and that is selfish. Tend to you. Do your self-care. Get a good night's sleep before the protest and have a self-care plan in place. Next week's show is going to be all about protesting and what kinds of self-care you can tend to before, during, and after. And get motivated and pitch in. And if you're protesting and letter writing and calling and doing all of those things, you can support this movement any way you can without hitting the streets. The simplest thing you can do, and my ask of you today, is that you take care of yourself. Get you right, and then come up with a way to get involved, because our community needs us. And without self-care, we can't fully be there. We can't be present and make change and participate in this movement if we're not ready. We have to look at how we can do something right now while honoring your needs first. But you have to start with you. You have to tend to you first. Now, that doesn't suggest that you need to be feeling your absolute best, right, before you can get out there and get involved and make some change. You don't have to feel perfect, but you do have a radical responsibility to attend to you first and then get involved. But you can't do it if you're exhausted or in distress. So you need to take care of yourself first, and then join this battle when you're ready to go, when you can be the light. And if you're on the front lines of this fight right now, you more than anyone else needs to put yourself first, especially being out there amid COVID and being a part of these protests. You need to make sure that you're okay first. And that's what I'm talking about today. How do we make self-care a priority? How do you get the self-care you need? Well, first of all, the number one thing you can do to prioritize self-care is you have to start by loving yourself. Which, it might not come very natural to you. And I know it's a cliche, but it works. It's really that simple. You want better self-esteem, more confident, the ability to stand up for what you believe in. If you want to repair broken relationships, and if you want to get better at any sport or endeavor that you have, loving yourself is the direct solution to that. You could start out by listing all the things that you love about yourself and really dwell in them. You've got to get good at loving yourself. You got to catch yourself when you start to have that negative, shitty thoughts about yourself. And then you've got to really practice catching yourself at it. You want to get to the place where you can catch yourself and replace it. And you want to get to the place where you can give yourself some grace and some leeway and really connect. But you need to first give yourself permission to not be perfect. Ditch that perfectionism. There's nothing worse than striving to be better as a person while not focusing on how to take care of yourself through that. Because if you're striving to learn more about your unconscious bias, if you're striving to educate yourself more, it really won't work if you're not loving to yourself first. Number 2, start where you are. Accept where you're at, and like we just said, let go of that perfectionistic thinking. When you really dwell on where you're at and you lovingly accept wherever you're at, whether it's with a financial endeavor, a weight loss endeavor, educating yourself, becoming more involved, whatever it is you're striving to do better, however you're trying to be anti-racist and however you're trying to put yourself out there, you have to first start by accepting where you are and where you start from. And sometimes that's really hard. That's really hard to do. If you find yourself in this movement identifying as a racist or as someone who has severe bias, if that's something that you're coming to the realization to as all of this national conversation is happening, you have to lovingly accept where you're at with it, recognize that you need to make a change, and then level up by doing the smallest thing you can do right now. And it's true for self-care, and it's true for anything you're trying to better yourself with. You have to recognize, especially like in education, right? If you're trying to learn something new, you have to recognize the level you're at. That's why they make you take entry exams. They want to identify, okay, what is your understanding and where are we starting from? So you don't have to go back and learn things that you already know. And you level up by doing the smallest thing you can. So if making self-care a priority is really challenging for you and you find yourself really struggling with loving yourself and these concepts are, you know it's important, but it's hard to apply it, start where you're at and level up in the tiniest bit of way. The smallest thing you can do right now. Drink some water. Say something nice to yourself. Make a plan right now. Make the commitment right now that you're going to get extra sleep tonight. Stop doing shit that hurts you. Stop putting yourself in bad positions for the wrong reasons. And stop saying yes when you mean no. You've got to start where you're at. And if you're not able to commit to going to a protest because of your anxiety levels about interacting, be okay with where you're at. And then make a plan on how you can get involved. If you're having a hard time with your weight right now, if that's something you're really struggling with, first accept where you're at, give yourself that grace, and start with the smallest thing you can do. What's the smallest, easiest thing you can do right now to help your weight loss efforts, to help get your finances in order, to help your own mental health? Start where you are and accept that and be okay with that. Because you weren't always here. You had to do work to get here. Yes, there's more work that needs to be done. And you're a work in progress, and that's a beautiful, wonderful thing. But you're not going to really make any impactful changes if you're not loving yourself first. And if you're not graceful and accepting where you're at right now. And number 3, as you're developing this loving relationship with yourself and you're accepting where you're at, you then want to create a routine, a simple routine. And making something a priority is putting it into your routine. Now, if you're in a chaotic place personally right now, where your sleep schedule is all off, your eating schedule is all off, you don't know from one day to the next what it is you're going to be doing, I highly encourage you to start at the very beginning and start with a very basic routine. And a basic routine looks like a 24-hour plan of when am I getting up, when am I going to bed, when am I going to eat, and when am I going to take time for myself. That's a basic 24-hour plan. You don't have to know what you're going to be doing for the next 2 weeks to get yourself in a better place, to educate yourself, to lose weight, to do any of the things you're trying to accomplish. All you need to do is have your next 24 hours planned. And you make that simple, realistic plan based on what is it that you're actually going to do. I've been listening to this incredible lady named Corinne Crabtree. She has a podcast called Fit and Fat, Losing 100 Pounds. And it's this amazing concept that is so simple, but it is so incredibly effective. And it's this 24-hour plan where you're just going to make the decision right now to do what's best for you, and you're going to make a plan, and then you're going to stick with that plan. And it's a very simple concept, but it's so incredibly powerful and impacting. And you start identifying what the priorities are and what's missing from your life right now. What is it that you are wanting to do better or wanting to strive for? What is it that you can do to be at your best? Is it sleep? Is it, a workout? Maybe time alone, water, whatever it is, make it a routine and build those habits. And if you're like, nah, I'm good. I'm like living the best life. I love being by the seat of my pants. I would strive to ask, how's that working out for you? Especially in such chaotic times right now where there's no control over a lot of things. You really want to look at that. So if you're just willy-nilly out there, I don't need a plan, how is that working out for you? Are you achieving the things you set out to achieve? Are you settling for mediocrity? Because if you're not taking care of you, if you're not trying to figure out